Yo, I'm Jay Beershank. Thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel. We're going to do another edition of book reviews today. We got a good one. It is The Story of B by Daniel Quinn. Daniel Quinn is an awesome writer. He's written a lot of books, and I've read two other ones, Providence and Ishmael. This book is the continuation of Ishmael, but Ishmael is not a prerequisite to this book. You could read this book and you could still be all there. But yeah, he's a really great writer, and Ishmael kind of talks about this idea of there's two sides of history. There is the taker side of history, which is basically after the agricultural revolution, or you could even put that as synonymous with the fall from the garden, like the Garden of Eden, the fall, and then before that, which is a lever. And basically the two ideas is like before the agricultural revolution and before the fall from the Garden of Eden and all these things, people were living in harmony with the earth for millions of years, and there was, an infinite amount of cultures and ways of life and traditions, and they all were allowed to practice, in respect to the others. And there was still a slight amount of war between them, but they were never trying to dominate each other and convert. They just wanted to make sure that they had boundaries, and they were respected. And then after the agricultural revolution, totalitarian agricultural revolution, that tribe started to believe that they had the one right way for the rest of the world to live. Noted that it's been proven that agricultural revolution actually was a much harder way for people to survive and live than before. But so that's the difference. It's an interesting idea, and they call them takers and leavers, whatever though. In this book, he more gets into the idea that the common culture now, 1,200 years after the agricultural revolution, or however, not 1,200, but now, after the agricultural revolution, present day, the hysteria and the kind of collective consciousness that is prevailing is this idea that anything that happened before that 10,000 years ago is just prehistory, and it's irrelevant to any of the things going on today, nothing to learn from there. But what he's trying to say in this book is no, these cultures, these tribalistic cultures, have tried and true methods of living in harmony with the earth that have been tested over millions of years, and we can learn something from that because of the way that we see the world going now, which there's poverty, disease, and war especially, and yeah, it's a really, really interesting idea. And in this book, he came to this thought of agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago. Before the agricultural revolution, the predominant religion and spiritual view, it wasn't, said like that, but what they believed in was animism. Animism is the idea that everything is animated with life. So you see life within everything, including yourself, and what that leads to is an interconnected feeling with the world and belonging to the world, and knowing that the cycle of life and death is, you're part of that system that is, a part of the system that's operating on everything you see on earth. And then, so animism before the agricultural revolution, and that's their religion and their spiritual views. And after that, we have the agricultural revolution. We see about 5,000 years later pop up all five of the major religions we have now. And the reason that he says these religions popped up is because before the agricultural revolution, there was no classism. You had tribalism. So you either all suffered or you all thrived. Sure, maybe there was people who had more influence, but not people who had more power. So then, agricultural revolution, we start to have kings, queens, poverty, wealthy. You have these things going on. You have the suffering classes, people who were being chosen to suffer. And then, they start to wonder, why? Why am I suffering? And then they want to know how to get out of the suffering. And then you have these five major religions, which he calls the salvationist religions. And it's a really interesting, profound idea if you start to think about that, because he's saying that, I think it was Karl Marx who said religion is opioid for the masses, and that's a really interesting way to put it. And it's interesting, B stands for blasphemy, because in this story they claim that the holder of any of these teachings is the Antichrist, because what the Antichrist is going to do is take people away from the righteous path and take them away from salvation. But what they're saying here is, yeah, damn right, because we don't need salvation. We just need to realign with the earth and go back to belonging to the earth and quit trying to believe that the earth belongs to us and will always provide for us, no matter how much we ravage it. So yeah, it's a really, really good book. It's really profound and great. And what's really cool too about this is, so there's a whole story, of course. It's about a guy who goes on an adventure and he meets these people who are proclaimed to be running a cult, and the Antichrist cult and all this stuff. It's an interesting story. It's fun, but the cult people give talks, and the story portion of the book skips over the talks. But if you skip to the last 100 pages, you can just read the talks, and the talks are where Quinn gives you the bulk of his ideas that he's trying to portray, right? So you can just skip to the last 100 pages and check those out, and skip the whole story portion if you like. And so that's nice and helpful resource. And yeah, I think this is a really practical book. I think Quinn is a really practical author. Yeah, so I'd give it a check. I think you would benefit from it and you would enjoy it, and it's another perspective, right? Thanks, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like and a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.